How many plants varieties are currently planted?
How many are planted? So we grow year round, and we grow during the winter. We still grow a decent amount of greens. So I'd say there's probably 40 or something growing during the winter, and then in the summer
with
we
no
get
heat,
to the 300s. You know.
Wow.
I know.
How big is it?
I like variety.
Don't say.
So we own 2 acres, but we have 1 acre in like cultivated production.
300 plants on 1 acre?
Well, more than that in plants. That's varieties. So.
Wow.
What's your favorite?
What's my favorite? People always ask me that. Peppers are fun, but I think I love garlic because it just grows so well in this climate. You know, like garlic is just a great thing to grow in Utah, and it grows during the winter. It's like a different season. It's a totally different. It stores. It's delicious. You can use it in everything. It just elevates everything. You know.
It does.
So some people don't like garlic, and it's like a healer. Like garlic is a healing thing too. So I think garlic is one of my favorites, but I like a lot of different things, you know.
Wow.
It's
hard to choose, yeah.
She did a post in 2020 on Instagram. And what did you say? The stinking rose.
The stinking rose. You know
they
how
banned
it's like
it.
Been known. They took my post off. I didn't say anything about COVID. I didn't say anything really about health problems. I just called it like the stinking rose, and they took all the words off. So I'm like, whatever.
That's awesome.
So garlic can be also, I guess, a hot topic during COVID.
Literally. I guess you can't claim it heals.
No.
Even though food does, but
food heals. But you know.
Cool. Welcome to the Thryv Movement Show, where we interview amazing humans on the social sciences, or what it was called, community sciences of the farm and the ground. We have 2 amazing guests on the show today that are joining us, and they are going to tell us all about their farms and what they've done and how they got started. I'm going to turn it over to Abby, and Abby will talk a little bit about her showmanship at the fair and what she did with livestock and animals, and then talk to you about how you got into it and what you did.
So yeah, for your context, for who I am or where I came from, I grew up on a cattle farm in Minnesota and grew up outside. Always had a home garden and didn't know I was passionate about it until I found myself out of college and trying to have as many gardens as I could while working a full-time job, and ended up at Maharishi International University studying the Master's in Regenerative Organic Agriculture program, where Aaron found me. It's just been a really cool journey learning about how food heals and the benefits of it, and I'm excited to hear where you guys got started and where you are today.
Question, and so we read last night. We went over a little bit of the history of links that were sent to us, and tell us about your start story of how you decided you wanted to get into farming and where you found that green thumb.
Yeah, so I'm named after my 2 grandmas, so Sarah, Geraldine, and they, this history of America, they started with agriculture, right? And so I say that I brought it skipped a generation, like my grandparents grew up on a dairy farm. They grew up farming. They left and went to Los Angeles. And then that's where I was born. And then my mom didn't want to raise any more kids in Los Angeles. So she moved us to Cedar City, Utah, which is where my farm is. And I always, even in California, we always had a small flock of chickens. We always had a garden. And one of the great sellers of moving to Cedar is you can have like more animals. And 10-year-old doesn't want more animals. So when we moved there, we got some sheep because it is a sheep area. And I don't know if there was ever like a point that I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. just sometimes what you're doing is just what you're supposed to be doing. And that's kind of how I felt like my life, like my whole life. It's like where I am is where I'm supposed to be. And if that changes, then it's going to change. So my mom's best friend in Overton, Nevada, started a CSA. And I was like, that's so cool. That's what I want to do. Like, I love the community aspect. I love the fact that you get your money up front and you know who you're farming for. And so I made a flyer at the age, I started my garden at 12 when we moved to Cedar. I was selling to people in town. We are a college town. SU is our town. So I was selling to college students and professors and there wasn't a farmer's market at the time. So I wasn't selling at a farmer's market, but just kind of selling the proceeds or the extra. And then when I saw the CSA, I got my mom's assistant to make me a flyer without really her knowing. I mean, she kind of knew that something was up, but I don't think she knew exactly what I was doing.
Wait, you were how old again?
What?
You were how old when this was made?
I was
14.
14 when I did the flyer, when I officially started my
And the
CSA.
assistant, if I may. So the assistant, you went to the assistant, and what did you say to the assistant?
Well, I mean, we were just she had made, the year before she had put in so my mom did fundraising and event planning for nonprofits, and she did events. And in this program, she had put she had got them to make us a flyer, right? Or a logo. Yeah, it was an ad.
Because you pay for an ad, right?
Yeah, so she put an ad, and it was the surprise when I opened it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So I took that ad and turned it into basically a flyer for my CSA. We have
never changed. We probably need to
the first time. Yeah, and we've never changed our logo since. And she's like, this was not supposed to be a logo. This was just an ad in a program that I did for an event. And so the first time I had 4 shareholders, and I actually charged the most I think I've ever charged.
That's because of that friend in Vegas.
I took her prices, and she delivered to Vegas, and I just took the same prices. So I had 4 shareholders at that point, and then we started doing a farmer's market in Springdale, right outside of Zion, and my mom and I would do that on the weekends, and my dad would come home. He was still doing construction in California. So he would come home on the weekends and help us.
Now, really quickly,
yes.
So for our viewers, can you explain to us what a CSA is?
Yes.
And can you also explain what shareholders are?
Yes. So a CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So essentially, I mean, it started in Europe. It's I feel like it's the little red hen kind of story, right? Originally everyone bought in and they're like, hey, let's grow it together and let's raise food and we'll all eat it. And then there was one person doing it. And so they're like, hey, how about you pay me, how about you buy into the farm and you buy into the risk as well as the bounty, and then you'll get the proceeds of whatever this farm produces. And so that's what kind of the concept is of a CSA. So people buy in at the beginning of a season. Every model is different now. If you look up CSA, there's so many different versions and kinds, iterations.
So these 4 shareholders you had, right?
Yes.
These 4 shareholders, do they own the farm?
So they don't own the farm. Essentially they're buying a share in your farm for that season. So they're buying into the risk of what it produces.
Okay.
So, and they were buying into the vegetable portion of the farm. So there are some people that actually do you get a piece of, the farm. There's so many different kinds, but the more modern way is kind of this.
So they're buying that season, and you can literally do it where it's just vegetables. By the way, I like to say vegetables is this. Leaves and stems.
Oh.
Is it leaves and stems? Leaves and roots.
Leaves and roots,
yeah. May I segue for a second? Then I'm going to come back to the story. Tell us what you think the meaning of a fruit is.
Well, what do you mean by that? What is a fruit? Tomatoes or fruits or pepper? I mean, we're a biodynamic farm.
Is a zucchini a fruit?
Well, technically, yes.
Why?
It is in our fruit because it has a seed. So we do everything. We categorize everything by leaves, roots, fruit. And when we go through and we do our planting and everything, we plant by the moon, we plant by the cycles. We have, calendars that, sell in a Torah, the Minutun, depending on the leaf day, or if it's a fruit day, or if it's a root day. So that's how we plan everything. And so when we separate our seeds and everything and our schedules, everything's divided into those 3 things.
Wow.
So it's kind of a little, when people look at our we use spreadsheets, but when people look at them, they're like, oh, like, why is this in this cat? And I was like, well, it's either a flower, like broccoli, you don't think of it, but it's a flower. Like broccoli and cauliflower are flowers. So that goes in with our flowers. But like, why is broccoli and cauliflower in with the zinnias? And I'm like, because it's technically a flower, So it is, I think, looking at the way that plants or where they go is interesting. But yeah.
When did you come across biodynamics and how did you get into it?
So my mother, she could probably say this better. She found biodynamics. Do you want to tell them what I said when you found it?
I'm sure our stories were like a bad married couple. It's true. So I was an adventurous mom, and we would go to So the man who this is after is Rudolf Steiner, and he also had a method of educating which is called Waldorf, and we homeschooled, so we went to Waldorf activities at Waldorf schools. So she loved it. Like that's all magical part of her childhood, and then. I heard about this thing called biodynamics, not knowing the two were yet related. And she was like, we are not doing this. She thought it was like dancing under the moon naked.
Like, no naked dancing.
We're in a very conservative area.
This is not going to go over well. Like, you're crazy.
Her mentors are like, the old Mormon farmers on these older Mormon families are like, those were kind of your mentors at first.
In a lot of ways,
So she kind of pushed it away, and then someone came to the farm. It's a true story. We were sitting there for Christmas, and we have this thing from Germany, and it's candles, and it has 2 manger scenes. She said that must be a Rudolf Steiner manger scene. And I'm like, why? She said, because his philosophy is there are 2 Jesuses.
There were 2 baby Jesuses, and we're like, this must be like, they must have messed up. Like maybe my brother gave it to us who lived in Europe, and we're like, he must have like gotten a cheaper one or something. They gave him a discount because they put 2 baby Jesus.
It's actually part of his, because he also has a philosophy about religion. So anyway, we were sitting there, and this girl had grown up on a biodynamic farm, Waldorf trained, and that's when we went, it's the same guy. Like that biodynamics is the same man that came up with Waldorf. She was sold. So that was the convincing.
And then I met someone in like the wine industry that didn't look like a crazy hippie that was dancing naked under the moon. And now I'm right there with him. No, I'm kidding. And I was like, oh, wow, like wineries do this. And so Northern California, and actually through Demeter, the certifying agency, is how we really became involved in the biodynamic community. And we've been certified biodynamic, and it's a big part of our farm.
Okay, so here's what's crazy is I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh, great.
So what is biodynamics?
That's even better. So there was a philosopher named Rudolf Steiner. He was after World War I. He basically like looked at what we did to the earth and was like, oh my gosh, we have to heal this. And he came up with a lot of things like Waldorf and other. If you read everything that he wrote, it would take you years. He was basically he was a prolific writer, and a philosopher. So this group of
yogi.
not a yogi.
He does your rhythmy.
He does
something.
He came up with a beautiful way of movement, but he has lots of things. He has like things on bees. But these farmers came to him and said, like Rudolph, basically, like, how do we heal our land after we've done this to it? And this was in World War I. So like, think of it now. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
When you look at like these writings, like these, like if they saw now what we've done and they knew how to fix it, which is crazy. Like we just don't listen. Mm-hmm. But he came and wrote what is called the agricultural lecture. And it was one of the last things he actually wrote about. And it was towards the end of his life, but he also, what it basically does is like a way of farming to heal the earth. And it's looking at it as a whole organism. A lot of people call it sacred agriculture. And it's a little bit like homeopathy. I like to say, like, people that don't know, if you don't know what homeopathy is, then you're going to have to research that. But it's a little bit like homeopathy. So it's small doses of these preparations that are made very intentionally that you spray on your land to bring in, you know, like you could say elementals are a different like life force, but also it works with the microbes. And, you know, you could say it's a lot like a compost heap. So there's a lot of different things. And you look at it now and you're like, that's weird, or, you know, like the things that he does. But when you're thinking about that time period, like people butchered their own animals. They used cow manure, you know, like, and farming goes back to very ritualistic things. So when you look back in history, this isn't anything odd or weird or funny. It's basically just kind of bringing it together in a more modern way. Is kind of what he was
I think
doing.
a great one that goes along with that is the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Did they eat it afterwards?
Do they eat?
So when they sacrificed the lamb in biblical times,
Yeah.
Did they eat it?
did they eat it after they sacrificed it? I'm just curious. What's your opinion?
I don't think they would have wasted it. Maybe they composted it.
It was actually, maybe it was the original biochar.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that reminds me of a story that I had when I was little, and then my mom burned the turkey. And there's nothing worse in my mind than seeing your mom cry.
Oh.
And it's funny, I heard the whole reason why the turkey got burned recently, but she burned the turkey. So biochar.
The original biochar.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hate to digress and get off topic sometimes because then it just cuts that flow. Where's that rubber band? I need that rubber band. So, what's the next question?
So are there animals involved on your farm currently?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have lots of beautiful animals because if you do biodynamics, like we always say, so we used to do meat animals. We don't do meat animals anymore on 2 acres. We just don't really have the space, I think, to raise them properly. My mom doesn't even love how our milk animals are, but we
Like
have
more pasture.
Yeah, we'd love more pasture, but that isn't what we have. We do have a great source of alfalfa that we use that we like, but so we have some milk goats and a cow, which is a whole nother story. And then we also have chickens and geese and a llama and, you know, a little menagerie, but they're all for like eggs and milk. But really we say the milk is the byproduct, and what we really have them for is the manure because we're a vegetable farm. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Would you, when you say you'd love more pasture, have you built up a customer following in a way where you could move the farm? Or does the farm need to stay exactly where it is and you have a second farm that gives more pasture?
Not the price of land anymore.
Yeah. With land the way it is, that's another question. We probably do, but I mean, a lot of like this kind of farming is, I don't think, you know, like you just don't pick up and move. It's like land has, you know, holds you to it, and you just don't, like we put our animals on pastures, we've done different things, and sure you could move or whatever, but there isn't like a great space that we've found and it hasn't shown up. You know, I'm like, if something comes along, but as I say, it hasn't come to pass yet. And so this is kind of where we are and how it's working. And I think it's a model that I want to be able to show other people that like, look at what you can do on this piece of land while working with people who do alfalfa or have bigger pieces to help you feed in. And it is that whole circle. Because I think a lot of times this community or in Utah, we like to like get mad at alfalfa farmers or people that are raising it. But it's like, look at what we can do. And if my cows were on pasture, my animals were on pasture, that would be fertilizing that pasture. But then what would we do with our vegetable production? And with dairy cows, it's a little different too. So I think that you just kind of have to find that balance of where you fit, and that's something that we've been trying to find.
Yeah. Does the farm woof?
No.
That's a hard no.
Ah,
No, that's not true.
No. Okay, please tell me more.
We've never, I mean, you can answer that one. Do you want to answer that one more?
we've tried everything, and woofing's a great program. It's just that it's evolved over the years, and they've become much more. I haven't read their website in a while, but I like how Farmer John says it. The problem is it's supposed to be 4 hours a day, so they wake up at 6 or 7. They're done at 11. They're smoking pot or singing under the trees, and everybody else still has a 10-hour day in front of them. It doesn't work well for production farms. I think it works for some places, but
like if you're berry picking or like that you have very seasonal stuff that it's like, okay, you can do a 2-hour shift, but like the culture just doesn't really, like when you have your full-time crew and like your community and they're like watching this person under the tree when you're all still busting your butt to get things done. It's kind of like, nah.
So tell us.
We've done interns, and we even say there have been people who have called who have woofed, and it's a short-term thing. And
education is extremely important, especially with our farm. Like that's a big thing that we're part of, and we actually have a nonprofit, Red Acre Center for Food and Agriculture. And the last 2 years, we've started a farmer training program with the nonprofit, and we are the people who basically are the teachers, or our farm is kind of like where we host the classes. And so me and the other TK who also works on my farm and has worked there for several years, we're the mentors for that program. Yep. And that seems to be a better use of our time, our resources, and ability to really educate people on how to farm in our region, how to get land, how to deal with that. And that is like way more productive of our farm and our space to give that opportunity instead of having people come through, which are lovely. And I think it's great because it inspires them. And there's, lots of wonderful stories that you hear with woofing. But it's just like for the time that we have and where we are, that's kind of where we put our energy and our heart.
Perfect answer. Literally, perfect answer. I truly love it. So tell us about the center.
Whose idea is this? So
I've told my mother for like forever, I'm like, I want a for-profit and I want a nonprofit. She's like, why?
We're not going to go into this story, but Sarah actually had a nonprofit when she was 10.
Yeah,
it raised money. It was young people raising money for causes. But
it was the philanthropist.
Why are we not going to go into this story?
We don't have enough time.
That's another chapter. So
for next show, for them to come on, we might go into that. Okay, go ahead.
And we moved from Los Angeles. So when we moved there, we could walk for 4 miles and only see 2 houses. So you're not really thinking about what you can and can't do.
Where in Los Angeles did you live?
The San Fernando Valley. Oh, okay. And my parents, that's what she said. They both left the farm and ended up in Hollywood. Yeah. And those are great stories too. And then, so her dad built a farm stand, which remember, we can walk for almost 4 miles and never see anything. And he's a builder, so it's totally to code. Everything's perfectly fine, except guess what? You can't sell anything in it. But we didn't know that. And I didn't really think about
zoning,
raw milk, or any of that. And then the governor of Utah, somehow they found her through Utah Zone. It's a program through the Department of Food and Agriculture, and said, we want stories about young people who aren't leaving rural Utah. So we went to this, it's now the One Summit. We went to his rural.
It was called the Rural Summit at that point, and it had been being hosted in our town for 20 years, 30 years, a long time.
And so as her parents, we came, and he slideshow, whatever, honored her.
Red carpet. It was being honored by the governor of Utah. It was pretty cool.
And then the next week we opened the mail, and
who was the governor at the time?
Herbert.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cox was the
lieutenant governor.
So 2 cease and desist orders. One was for selling raw milk, and one was for the farm stand.
Whoa.
And that's a really long story, but I thought we were done, and then your child motivates you to do things. And I'm like, who do I know? So we called the commissioner. County commissioners have saved us more than once. And he said, well, it's neighbor driven. I'm like, we have 2 neighbors.
Yeah, this time they had started building a subdivision, but we didn't have any neighbors.
And I said, neighbor driven. What neighbor? I want to know. If somebody's going to complain, I want to know, and I'm guaranteeing you it's not them. So he comes back with a name, and I said, that's the inspector for the Department of Food and Agriculture. He's not our neighbor. So he posed as a neighbor.
30 minutes away from us.
He posed as a neighbor.
In a different town.
Because he knew what he was doing, just to be, annoying, I guess. I'm never sure what his motive was. So our commissioner was furious and said, the Department of Food and Agriculture is not writing in here and doing this to our
Good.
his constituents. So he put a squash.
Thank you, whoever that commissioner was.
Yeah,
Thank you
his
for
name?
Standing up for the people.
Dave Miller. He got out of here and moved to Alaska. He's awesome.
To Alaska.
So,
Thank you, Dave.
yeah, for sure. And then I really think what happened was he sat down and said, let's change this. Let's do something about it. Sarah had a friend. She always says older friends, just like that friend in Nevada. They're usually my friends.
Sounds like somebody I know.
So, yeah, right? Because those are the people that are smarter, wiser than you, and if you're young enough to know. So he sat down, and I think the light came on that this isn't a local problem. Like, I can't fix the milk situation. These are state laws. And let me tell you, the civics part of our homeschooling, I had Greenpeace checks and didn't vote and grew up in Southern California. So it was like, she had to figure this out on her own.
Not completely. You switched partly through, but
I did switch somewhere in there.
Thank goodness.
But
Thank goodness Mom had great assistants that helped with flyers.
We definitely switched somewhere in there, but
That's good.
that's true.
So-
Well, I mean, you did have a
Yeah.
family, but I would say the actual workings of like how the government, like how do you get a bill to the state? I didn't know. So she worked with this older woman, and they came up with the idea.
it took a while.
The
to
truth
figure
was
it out.
Sarah wanted a bill that would fix everything. We can do chickens. We can have a farm
I started
stand.
meeting with our commissioner. I went to our commissioner of ag, and I said, like Utah, actually, we have rock climbing, we have skiing, like we have all of these outdoor sports. Like kids, my age are drawn to that, and they would love to come and farm in this
And
area.
land was cheap.
And land was super cheap. And so I was like, let's make this a place and invite these young farmers who are looking for land to come to Utah. Like, this can be a space, and let's write the legislation to make it so they want to come. Like, let's make this a hub for small, young entrepreneurs, farmers to, get them here. So I talked
message
to,
was not-
it fell flat on its face. But I talked to, at that point, I was talking to cops.
Why do you think it fell flat on its face?
I don't think we were ready. I think now they'd actually listen more, but it's too late. Land is expensive. Water's gone. We're building. Like, you kind of miss the boat in a way in the vision that I had. Like, I'm not fighting, but now
I
it's
don't
a
believe you
different
missed the boat.
conversation. I would say
You
the vision
definitely
that
missed the
I
boat for
had,
land.
we missed the
I don't
boat for
believe so.
land.
Well, good. We'll have to talk about that.
I don't believe
Yeah.
There are more creative ways, but the idea she was
The
talking
idea that
about,
I had, like, they
you
could
can lease
own their
and
own
co-op.
land, right? Like, it was cheap enough that they could have bought land, bought water shares, and owned and had their own. Because the problem is you have
I
all
believe
these
you could still do
farmers.
that in your county.
No, our
Yes.
our county. for
Well,
an
wait, great.
acre,
Let me hear your idea.
Which county are you in?
iron. How much do you think an acre of land is?
In Iron? Is it with agriculture or without?
Let's just say an acre.
They don't look at it as agriculture
They don't look at it as
anymore.
agriculture. It's all
lot.
building lots.
No, I disagree.
Well, I've looked.
Iron County is really big. I've looked too.
Yeah. So how much do you think an acre of land
We're
is?
going down to a property this week that's
Burrell?
that's 5,800 acres
And that is
on top of the mesa at Apple Valley.
that's a different
5,800
county.
acres.
That's
No,
a
I understand. That's Washington. I get it.
Yeah.
Iron County though. Iron County stretches, doesn't it?
It does, but
Where does
it's,
Iron County goes all the way to the state border, right?
no.
No, Washington.
Washington
It goes to
does.
Washington,
Yep,
No,
we
on the
hit
south
Washington.
side it goes to Washington.
right?
On the west side, where's the border of Iron County?
Washington, because you have you have Burrell and Enterprise.
That circle us, and then
On the
Washington
east. What
comes
about on the
right
west side?
above.
Of Iron County.
Then we hit
We hit Kanab,
Kanab,
so,
that would
well, we
be
could look at a
Kane.
map in this
I mean, we
day
can
and
look.
age.
Kane. We're circled. We're not on the borders. But anyway,
Also, in parts of, so for example, there was 80 acres in Cedar City that sold recently for
It's here.
1.6 million. So 1.6 million.
Exactly what we're talking.
So what?
You could have bought that for
20
$80,000 when she was talking.
Right.
When? How long ago?
15
I
years
was
ago.
17 and I'm 30. So
15 years ago, 80 grand. Yeah. So same with me. I mean, in Harriman, here in Salt Lake City,
Harriman.
in Harriman area, I looked at a piece of property when I was 20, and I told my parents I was going to buy this property with a mobile home that needed to be torn down. It's 20 acres.
And you didn't?
And I wanted to buy it for $240,000. It was crazy. And they said, you will ruin your life with that. This is literally what they told me. They told me not to do it. And now it's worth multi-millions.
Everybody told her not to. Well,
yeah, I bought an acre that was
she bought the
20,000.
acre that had
was
joined
a-
when she was 16.
That was a
And
building lot.
Everyone told her she was an idiot.
and now it's
except
worth
me.
175.
Okay.
So that's like what we're dealing with.
And I
Anyway,
told her to do it.
So we came to the commissioner. We asked them, at that time we were talking to Cox about that vision, and they kind of poo-pooed it. But through that and having those discussions, we came up with a bill that was for raw milk. Well, it wasn't actually raw milk. It was a property rights issue. So raw milk was actually legal in our state, but you could not share a cow. So the four of us could not own a cow and drink the milk from it and pay someone to board, feed, and milk that cow. So
We were one of only a few states that had outlawed.
so we were one of a few
herd
states
shares.
that outlawed it, and I'm like, we're a freedom loving state, and we believe in property rights. It's in our constitution. It's like this is if people say like Utah, like they would say you're a property rights state, but you can't share a cow. So we ended up passing that bill, making cow sharing legal. It took a ridiculous amount, like a Herculean effort. Everyone was against it. The Department of Ag, Farm Bureau, the Health Department, the Food Association, Retailers Association.
What a
I mean,
human you are.
if there was anyone for it, I would have liked to know. There were some kind of
The people were for it, but we
and
didn't
that's who
find
was
that
for
out.
it. Was the people were for it, and we didn't find that out until they started calling and texting. And the night, so it was a House bill. It was on the Senate floor. It was passed that night, the closing night of the session, and the senator said, "Can we please hear HB 4?" I think it was.
No, I don't know.
It was
anymore.
4 anyway, or 204 or something, or 104. I think it was a 1. Now we don't even get 1.
Yeah, 144.
Anyway, who knows what number
might
it was?
have been
I
144.
think it was 144 or 104.
There's so
I know
many
it was
numbers in
something
our
four.
head
There's
right
too
I read
many
it last
numbers
night.
right now.
I think it's HB 144.
There you go,
Wow.
maybe.
But
There
yeah.
you go. Anyway, and he was like, so we can stop receiving text calls and emails. Like,
We didn't know
and we
5
didn't
people
even
when we went
know
up there.
that there were that many people. And so I turned 20 on the Hill that day, and we went home.
You turned 20 on the Hill that day?
I mean, not that day, but in
That
February. So that session, and I thought that I was going to be home for my birthday. She wouldn't let me come up until I could vote.
Your
that was
dad said you
that
were
was
way too
my
young.
parents' rules
Talk about
until I could vote.
synchronicity.
Anyway, so we went home, and that was kind of like our big hurrah. And I had other things that I wanted to do for sure, and we had other ideas. And we found out that there was this community that existed that was behind us. And we went home, and we kind of were doing our thing. And the next, the governor signed the bill. This is kind of a
we're
crazy
gonna go
story.
with
We're
this
going to go in
story.
with this full
You didn't
story.
veto it?
No, the governor
They
signed
were
the
worried
bill.
about that because West Virginia had a bill vetoed. But I'm like, I knew this state. I was like,
Yeah,
he's not going to
he's not
veto
gonna
this.
veto it. We were
Fox or
worried,
Huber
but
at the time?
this was Herbert, and it was the most talked about bill on the Hill. When you think of like
Ridiculous
the
herd
amount
shares.
of things that we have that are important, I'm like, talk about like kids and schools and drug, and we're talking about cows sharing milk. Like it was in the closing address of the governor of like,
awesome.
and we even talked about, we even came together on cows sharing milk. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, can we get our priorities straight?
Great.
So anyway, we went home, and we went on with our lovely lives. And my dad had been watching the farm by himself that whole winter when we were up here, because we didn't think that we were going to end up really being
She
up
told
here.
me a few days.
Yeah, and we ended up staying for a few weeks we never
That
went
last,
home.
it was 18
It was like 18 days that we ended up staying up. And so the governor signed the bill that day, and we had just gotten the text that the governor signed my bill, and my mom was like, where's dad, and he had gone to a greenhouse in town that we grew in to harvest for our CSA because it was the next day.
We have tried the off-property thing.
Yeah, we have
Locations
tried
off of the site
off
we
of
live
our
on.
site anyway, and come to find out what they call it is she says that I say it wrong.
He didn't
you
have a
wanna say
heart
it?
attack. He died.
Yeah, he did die.
actually
They call
died
it-
before we could tell him the bill was signed.
Yes.
I was
And
irritated
so
that I couldn't find him.
we found him, and he had they call it an electrical misfire. It's not technically a heart attack, but anyway, and he was a healthy, we literally talked to him, like an hour.
4 o'clock
like
I
4
talked
o'clock.
to him.
So
Now it was 6.
totally unexpected, but it was like within the hour that the governor signed the bill. So needless to say, that kind of took our lives on a different path. I had just turned 20. She had lost her husband
She lost her partner.
I lost my business partner, and I called him
He
my
could build
dream maker.
anything.
He could build anything I wanted with nothing, like with $0. I give him $10 and he'd build me anything I needed. Like I was like, I need a sitting room. He built it for $30.
Sounds like your dad.
Yeah.
Well, he grew up. You grew up on a farm. How many acres?
Yeah.
It's big. It's 1,500 acres, but
wow.
it's swampy and wilderness. So beautiful for wildlife, but
Not all.
Not always.
cows get around.
Yeah, cows are amazing. So we weren't sure what we were going to do. The next session came around. There was lots of hubbub. There were other kind of people that we had been up there kind of carrying it on, and they're talking really bad about you. They're saying things that about that you had ill intent, that you really, because we didn't actually, you have to register for your herd share in this state. So we didn't register our cows in the herd share because literally I don't even think that we were trying to survive. And
that same inspector showed up.
Yeah.
The session ended March. It had been 4 weeks. People who were volunteering to help us.
Yeah.
And he walked up the driveway. And he's like, I knew he knew we had lost my husband. And this is a small state, small community. He lives in Iron County. And I looked at him. I'm trying not to say his name. He's like, are you practicing herd share? So I looked at him and I was like, get out of here. I was like, this isn't even a subject.
Yes,
right
we're
now.
milking cows, obviously. When farming is that way, when something happens, plants still have to be watered, animals still have to be fed, our shareholders still came to get their food. Life doesn't stop. And I think that's something really beautiful about farming, and why it grounds you so much is because you realize life is so beautiful, but it kind of brings you back to the heart of it. Things happen, life happens, shit happens.
Yeah,
but life still goes on,
can I ask
and
a
there's still
question?
things that
What is
happen,
herd share? I have no idea.
Oh,
So that is multiple people. So it's more than one person. So the 4 of us owning a cow. So we go buy a cow.
But you just passed the law. He's
condo
coming to
share.
ask-
Think of a condo.
Like
No,
a
I know,
condo,
but
yeah.
the law passed. 6 weeks later, he's coming, or 4 weeks later, he's coming to say, are you practicing herd share?
Because we were supposed
Because
to
we were
you're
supposed to
give the state your
register
name.
our cows as a herd share program. We are an agster that is owning cows and sharing them with a group of people.
But there wasn't an implementation time after passing this law?
Yeah, probably the day it probably went into effect.
Yeah,
the
the
day
day
it
that it passed.
signed.
Yeah.
No, but the day that it passed, it signed.
It doesn't. Go
Everybody
into
doesn't
effect.
register their herd the next day.
Of course,
Are you
right?
kidding me?
It's just
Right.
me, yeah.
Which is why we were like, why are they picking us? So anyway, the next session, I marched back up to the Capitol and said, what the heck? Why are you saying this about us? Obviously this wasn't what we meant. And I confronted the
We didn't even have a
representative.
car.
Now he's a senator. Yeah, we didn't even have a car.
She's like, rent a car. Well, that's another story.
That's another
Wait,
story.
hold on. I have to. So, which representative?
It was a representative. Now he's a senator. We confronted him and just said, "Hey,
No,
why are
we
you saying
walked
this?"
in there.
I
Sarah,
walked right up to him, and
and said,
"I hear that you're saying things that's totally not true." And he apologized, and he said, "I'm sorry. This is what I was understanding or hearing."
and then I called the department.
And then we called the department and told them, and we kind of squash the rumor. And then I realized, and then I started looking at the bills that they were passing that year, and I'm like, they're doing stuff to undo what we did. And there's no one up here that has a voice for agriculture in this realm. And so we need to be a voice for small ag and direct consumer. So that's when we
got it with.
Yeah, so my favorite, we tell this story a lot. I walked into a representative's office the first year and said, hey, you know, I'm here to meet with Representative so-and-so. And they're like, well, who are you with? And I was like, who am I with? Who am I with? I'm like, I'm with her. And I pointed to my mom. And then it was like, oh my gosh, we need a with, Mom. So that next year, as we say, we got a with. And we found out that we needed to be with someone and for someone.
So we passed the bill 2015. So we became a nonprofit a year and 3 months later.
So that's when our nonprofit started. And now we do lots of things like farmer training programs. We host a conference. This will be
10th year.
This will be in its 10th year.
Yeah.
This is the center.
The center lobbies. The center does the farmer training. The center does the conference.
The center is educational, and the farm is a for-profit.
Wait, why would you think that we didn't want to hear about the center? Of course we want to hear about the center.
I think in the middle of the session,
there's just a lot going on. You know, we have a lot of stories, so it can be confusing. So that is the center, and that's how the center
It's also
started.
her idea for my retirement plan. She's like, you can't farm forever, so
but you can.
We don't make any money. It's a great plan.
We can roll you up in a wheelchair, and you can talk to people about why small farming is good. No, I'm kidding. You can be 80 and still be advocating for farmers.
Yeah,
100%.
So, yeah, I don't know if she loves the retirement plan because it doesn't pay anything right now.
Oh yeah.
It's 100% volunteer.
The farm keeps feeding me.
The farm is how we live and is our sole source of income, and the center is our hobby. Yeah, as we like to say.
It's a full-time hobby.
Plus full-time hobby, and it takes 45 days out of our lives to come up to Salt Lake.
And then every month and all kinds of meetings.
All the time. But yeah.
And we've been back to D.C. a few times now, too. So.
Yeah. And we've worked
I would like to potentially figure out some consulting for the center where we employ some of your services in great farms across the world.
Oh, wow.
As a consultancy. I mean, if this has not been the perfect interview to get to know somebody, wow. So, anything you want to plug? 'Cause time flies, and we're gonna have to have you on a show again.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, you can find redacrecenter.org and redacrefarm.org. So those are our two websites. We're also on social media. So follow what we're doing. Our website for the center is not the best because we say we're so busy like doing the work that sometimes getting the message out there is harder.
You kind of did.
Can people come volunteer at the farm?
Yeah, so the farm, we host a lot of events. So we do burgers, bikes, and bands. We do breakfast. We're very open. We're open 5 days a week. We have an Airbnb that you can stay at. So the farm is very much open, and we're part of soil health. Like we do soil health days with the Soil Health Project. We're working with that, trying to show that like you can build soil. Because we're a no-till organic. We're certified organic, which in this state we're one of 5 certified organic farms in the state growing vegetables.
Wow.
There's about 30 in the state total with alfalfa and dairy. But
you're one of 5?
5 organic vegetables.
There are no orchards.
Yeah,
and the alfalfa wheat is kind of, it's a marketing tool for a lot of them.
Yeah.
They'll flip it. They'll do it
like
and then they'll flip it.
In it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They do it because they can see that they can get a little bit more for a while the commodity market's kind of low. Sure. So we only have like 30 organic farms in the state. So we're part of the TOP program, which is we're a mentor farm to help people transition to organic agriculture. So we do a lot with that work. What am I missing?
I don't know.
We do a lot.
We do farmer guilds, which is
we do farmer
that
guilds.
I'd love to see grow for the center, but we focus on the advocacy
Airbnb, I'm
part.
curious.
1300 square.
Big enough for a family?
Yeah, it's
there's
2 bedrooms, 3 queen beds.
Yeah, it sleeps like
Sweet.
6 people. So
If you have a lot of mats, you can sleep on the floor because we kept it so that you can have dirty boots and bring your bikes.
Yeah,
because we're close to all the national
It's a
parks.
farm.
It's a farm.
So
Yeah, exactly.
it's a farm. Yeah.
Dirty.
So we've done a lot over the year. I mean, we've been here now, it's been 15 years, which is crazy to say when people are like, how long have you been farming for? And like, that isn't crazy in Utah because when you grow up on a farm, you know, and you're farming from the day that you're born, basically, which I would love. I mean, that's a beautiful lifestyle, but I'd love new people to get in who have left ag. And to this year on the Hill, you know, how many stats have been shown that we're losing farmland because it's going into development, but we are gaining farms, which is something that is beautiful to see, but they're small farms.
Yeah.
And one of the senators yesterday, our bill was in committee, and there's going to be a study done about, you know, like agriculture in Utah and what is.
It's funded and it's passed. All it has to do is go through the floor in the Senate if we don't run out of time.
And it's a study basically to look at agriculture and see where the holes are and see what we need and how we can best do food security. But he's actually a good old farm boy, raised growing peaches.
Became a lawyer,
left the farm, but he is a great advocate for this size farming. And he's like, where the real food security is in people's backyards and their homes and their front yards, people growing their own food.
Is it comfortable to tell us that person's name?
Stratton.
Yes, Stratton. We would tell his name.
Stratton.
Yes, Senator Stratton.
Millions of peaches.
Lovely.
Peaches for me.
Yeah, they said peaches and cream. They said this is the perfect bill, peaches and cream, because our raw milk bill was back to back.
Yes, was the
Peaches
first
and
bill,
cream
and then
bill.
it was this one.
I grew up on peaches and cream.
Yes.
It is a delicious
Lovely.
combination, especially if it's raw cream.
Oh, yeah.
And our center's motto, do you want to say what our center's motto is?
If you feed yourself and your neighbor first, the world will be fed.
And I think that's the truth, right? Like,
Wow.
you don't have
Stratton,
to be
I want to
big.
meet you, Stratton.
Oh, yeah, he's great. And he would meet you, and he's lovely, and
And he advocates for that. And I think that is what people need to remember is like, even if you're small and you want to get into farming and be in the dirt because it is very grounding, like you don't have to have, I mean, an acre, even a quarter acre, even a window box, even.
That was a bill we had this year. You can get a tax
of-
break now on a quarter acre. If you have a quarter acre in production, you have to own at least an acre.
It has to be an acre of land, but you can get a
tax.
tax break even if you just start growing on a quarter of that. Like if it's in concrete or whatever.
That's awesome.
In a lot. So that's
I have
the
one
important thing.
last question for
Yes.
you, and maybe Abby has a question too. But my one last question is, of all of the diversity of plants you have,
Yes.
how many of them are heirloom seeds?
We grow a good amount of heirlooms. I would love to grow more heirlooms and save more. Unfortunately, like F1s are just tried and true, you know, like they get you. Like broccoli, you can't grow a head unless you really grow an F1. Like you get lovely sprouts. And unfortunately, we need to keep educating the consumer about heirloom and that, like, you know, I hate it when people are like, oh, it's organic, so it's like ugly or gross or funny. And it's like, what our perspective of what perfect is and what things look like. Like, I think that's also happened. I think that's part of the problem with like our kids and our youth. Like, you know, everything has to be perfect. Like the store, like you go in and food has to look the same and be the same size. And we've done that to people. Like now we think that we have to be perfect and look the same and be the same size. And, you know, it's like, what, you know, and that's not how it is. And so I think there has to be more education with heirloom food and real food and that it isn't all the same size. And seconds really aren't seconds. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It just looks different. It doesn't taste different. Like sometimes it's better. And so we do grow a good amount of heirloom seed. So I don't know the number off the top of my head. I could look it up.
Definitely focus on, soil building.
Yeah,
our
soil
soils.
building is a big
You
part.
definitely are speaking my language. Like for me, if I get soup, I'm going and buying organic vegetables.
Good for you.
The
You
organic
should do that.
vegetables are then chopped up and put into the soup. If I accidentally put too much salt in the soup, and sometimes that happens,
Use the right
I
salt.
usually will drink the broth off of it. I'll then blend the vegetables that's left over, and then I'll taste it. And if it's too salty, I add water, and now I just made my own V8. You know, so you're speaking my language. I absolutely love it, truly, and it's amazing the beautiful food that you grow, the milk, everything else. I enjoy eating it. So, please keep growing it. Please keep growing it.
Yeah.
Question you might have.
Can you say a little more about the farmer training program, like how long it is, there's a cost to it, or what does that
Yeah,
look like?
so it was a grant actually with the Department of Ag. It was a federal grant, which is really exciting that they funded something like this, which is neat.
It's under the specialty crop.
Yeah,
grant.
it's under this.
The farm doesn't do grants, so this is through the center.
Yeah.
But the center can run without grants, FYI, and the thing and what we're facing right now. We had always had that model that it has to be able to run.
Good.
Yeah, and
Grants
so,
are like Christmas morning, it's a bonus. It's not something we depend on.
So the farmer training program, we do a summer and fall and then a winter program, because people have to eat year round, and you can grow in Utah during the winter. So our summer program will start as soon as we get home from Salt Lake. As soon as the session ends, we'll start our farmer training program. And so they start with planting tomatoes and peppers and really go through the whole through the whole season. And we only take 3 people because we really want you to be hands-on. We want you to get the information. And when we're done, it isn't just about growing. It's also about marketing and business and finances and how to
the law.
When you start and the law, what legally can you do and what are you looking at value added? And so, do I start as an LLC? Am I a sole proprietor? What's the best way to start? So we have, an accountant come in, and so we kind of do the whole gamut. So when you're done, you feel maybe you still won't feel confident, but you really can start a farm business and walk away and not just start a garden. So we're kind of picky about who we take,
Nice.
because there are lots of people who are interested and they're like, oh, I want to farm, I want to do this. But it's are you really going to do this? Because we want people who, not just I love homesteaders. I think that they're a great backbone, but these are for people that want to farm and feed more than just their family, feed their community.
Do they pay for the program?
So the program, it's $1,000 for the summer program, which is a 24-week course. And then the winter program is half that size, so it's a 12-week course, and that is $500. And there are grants. So the grant that we got, we wrote in scholarship funds, so then people who couldn't afford it could scholarship. And we still have a decent amount of scholarship funds. So we've been able to scholarship a decent amount of people, but part of that is...
Scholarship people work the same as people that pay for it.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
No, I know, but do the work that you get from them, if they paid for their own money to go versus if they were given a scholarship to go, is it the same type of work return?
Yeah, and work isn't, so we don't technically make them work. They have to do hands-on hours because a lot of farming is hands-on.
Yeah.
And you're not required to do it. It's up to you what you want to take from it. But if you don't do it, you just get less out of the program and you don't graduate. So, but it's not for us, it takes a lot from our farm. It's a lot to educate someone how to do something.
Totally.
And so it isn't really, it's for them. It's not for us. We're showing them how to prep a bed and how to plant and how to teach someone else how to do that, because these are farmers that are going to be the owners and operators, and they need to know how to educate the next person. And so that's part of what the program is.
So the
Absolutely.
center was called Red Acre Farms?
Red Acre Center, and then the farm is Red Acre Farm. It's named after my grandpa, Red Wright, who grew up in New York. Yeah,
Right.
farming.
I like it.
Yeah.
And the red dirt in southern Utah.
Yeah.
It just happened to be so perfect.
Of course.
I like it.
Yes.
Cool. Any last things we want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay, we would love to have you again on a future show to talk
good.
about so many of these segments that we went into. And so, to our audience, continue to tune in, and please go and look up this great group. And if you feel motivated to take part in a farm in a beautiful area and learn, I'll tell you, I've been to Cedar City. I've walked the canyons. Abby's been down there, walked some of the canyons in the area, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And so if you feel inspired to take part of it, look into this and reach out to the group. So we appreciate you tuning in for the Thryv movement, and please get out there and thrive.